a lot of organizations seem to push too hard on being a very sports-like brand. And I don't think gaming is the space to be a very sports-like brand, right? I don't see Man United making memes.
Hi everyone, this is Tom reporting from the LEC, and with me here is Medic, obviously the play-by-play caster at the LEC. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks. Yeah, it's the break week, so it's been a busy start to the week, but now I have a couple of days off.
Yeah, and we just got off a pretty hectic first half of this split. Do you need some time to process it all?
I think it's like usually we do 8 weeks in a row or 9 weeks in a row, so it's not more, but it's more about it's just been a strange time, right, with COVID and with Corona, and so having some time off to just reset and get ready for the next half is pretty nice.
Yeah, and what I want to talk to you about in this interview is actually how do you guys create storylines when everything is so hectic? Obviously, in the very first weekend, we already saw some upsets, right? G2 versus Mad Lions was probably the least unexpected result of that weekend. And I just want to discuss with you how you and the LEC team try to create narratives when everything is so chaotic. So as you see those things progress, how do you try to find basically some consistency in this chaos?
Okay. So I think I'll start off by saying like what we do before the split and then how it kind of develops as the split goes on. So before the split, we have a couple of meetings. One is our Heroes and Stars meeting, where we look for what is our general impression of a team, what words we would use to describe them, and then who are the standout players on the team. So the hero is usually the guy that the audience connects with the most. I think Kazi is a good example of that from Mad Lions, and then the star is the player that's playing the best. So probably Humanoid right now, or Shadow would be our star for the team. And you the threads that you lay down early on tend to be around these players. So you can discuss other players, and if they're doing well, like they will then become one of the forefronts of your narrative discussion, your story discussion. But a lot of the time you're looking at specific players that you expect to have a good performance or expect to be to connect well with the audience. And then as the split goes on, like there are story meets every week where we'll say, okay, well, this team's doing better. Why are they doing better? How can we talk more about them? Or one of us will have a specific player. So like I thought Limit had a really good week a couple of weeks ago and wanted to do a segment on him. Kaiser's really playing well. So we're trying to talk a lot about Kaiser as well. And there are times when you can kind of fall in a hole. So like Fnatic G2 match of the week 3. It's like a lot of people were saying, oh, this shouldn't be match of the week. You know, it's not the biggest match of the day. You've got Mad Lions Rogue versus it beforehand. And sometimes you have to bite the bullet on things like that because G2 and Fnatic have a much larger and longer story, right? And if they were both bottom of the league, us saying it's the match of the week is like, maybe not the best, but also like, does match of the week have to be the two best teams, or can you make the story like G2 and Fnatic are really struggling right now? They are our legacy organizations. How are they going to develop? So yeah, week to week we have a story meet, and we each come in with our suggestions on what we'd like to talk about. But we also have producers and a really good scriptwriter called Evan, who does a lot of he tends to look at the bigger picture and say, okay, well, this guy is doing pretty well at the moment, or this team seems to be playing really well. Can we build a story around this team? And it will progress as you go on week to week. So like, I know in week 3, week 4, we talked a lot more about Mad Lions and Rogue than we would have done in week 1 or week 2, right? Because they were the ones at the top of the table. And then you talk a lot more about SK than perhaps we expected to, because SK were doing really well, or Vitality were doing really well. And so like, it does develop as you go along, and there are times when we'll all sit down and just take a slightly back foot and be like, are we telling the right stories? And if you don't do that, then you fall into the Legacy Dynasty Kings thing we had a couple of years ago, where it's just the same story over and over again.
Yeah, so in a way, a split this chaotic is even more of a feast for you guys than
definitely, because it's not just all the same teams doing well and all the same teams doing badly, right? And it actually makes it a lot more fun to watch and to interact with the game, because in the past, like I remember the good old days where we had 3 awful games to start off the day, and it's like all I care about today is game 4 and game 5, right? And now it's like you just look at like week 4, day 2, right? Rogue SK, fun game to watch. Vitality Origin, Vitality win it. That's freaking crazy. Then Schalke beat Fnatic, Excel beat G2, and Misfits beat Mad Lions, right? Like I don't think the level of play in the LEC is the best it's ever been. I think because Fnatic and G2 are struggling, like you can see that perhaps things are slightly lower than we'd like them to be, but the competition is the best it's ever been. I think this is one of our stats people, Connie, she did a measure on standard deviation of win-loss. So basically how close all the teams are on win-loss record. And it's the third closest split we've ever had for EU LCS or LEC at the halfway mark. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the second half of the split. It's going to be great.
So when you yourself look at the storyline so far, obviously G2 and Fnatic faltering is a big one, and Mad Lions and Rogue stepping up. But those four are kind of on everybody's mind now.
Sure.
Which other team is like a standout to you so far?
A standout in a good way, or someone that I'm really interested
Doesn't matter.
But I think like
Origin, good and bad, right? So.
Sure, that's true. Origin always comes to my mind, mostly because of how close the split is and the fact that they don't look as bad as they did in summer last year, but they still don't look great. And last year, they didn't even make playoffs, right? And if you don't make playoffs, you don't make worlds. There's no chance. So you have this recurring storyline with Origen and with a lot of players on that team where they are always the bridesmaid and never the bride. Like they always come second or third. They never quite make it over that mark. And I think they are a strong team full of strong individuals, but they never have shown me that they can be the best team in Europe. And I have other teams showing me that right now. And I'm slightly concerned that Origen are going to miss out on Worlds again. And Deficio's like, he's a good friend. He's close to my heart. I'd love to see them make it to Worlds, but there's this kind of beautiful symmetry of what Origen did last year and what are they doing this year.
Yeah, and Origen is one of those teams that the LEC continues to promote, and rightfully so. If you look at the teams, the players they have, right, and in theory, like they are like, heading into the year, they are still the team to contest with Fnatic and G2, so it makes sense. But other times, you really wonder. At least I do, and I think a lot of viewers. And I don't want to put you on the spot.
Oh no, you can put me on the spot. It's fine. If I don't want to answer the question, I won't answer.
But it sometimes feels like the LEC is pushing Origen really much compared to other teams.
I get that, and I think there's so there's two facets to it, right? There's the first facet, which is they consistently place third place, right? And if you're going to push a team, apart from Fnatic G2, who do you push? Where you push the team that's the next best, right? And then we started pushing Mad Lions this split because they get consistently they placed third place last split, and there's some cool storylines there. There's the second facet. Actually, it's probably three facets. There's the second facet of they do have these legacy names, right? You've got Nuke Duck, who's been around since Lemon Dogs. You've got Alfari, who went to with Misfits and almost beat SKT in 2017, I want to say it was. You've got Xerxes, who is on Unicorns of Love. You've got all of these like really big names. You've got Upset, who is meant to be the next Reckless, right? You've got all of these guys that are huge names. I leave Destiny off the list because he hasn't got that European legacy that everyone else has, right? Not because he's not a good player. You've got all of these guys that have huge names and huge brands. And so there are easy narratives to pull on there. And sometimes like you come into a week and perhaps you're not as prepped as you'd like to be. And it's like, well, which of these two teams am I going to pull narratives for? Vitality, who I don't know as well, or Origen, who I've watched for the last 6 years. So you'll tend to pick up on those threads a little bit more. But I do think like this split in particular, we have, personally, I think we've laid off the Origen quite a lot. I think we've done a lot more Mad Lions, a lot more Rogue. We've talked a bit about SK Gaming, and we talked about Kobe coming back to Misfits. Like, Origen is still there, and they're still in the pack, but we're no longer painting them as a third place team. We're painting them as do they make playoffs, right? But there will always be a balance that you have to make as a broadcast team between what is good narrative, like what is something that's interesting to the audience, and what is something the audience actually wants to watch, right? Because we could have Frostguru say, okay, like we're going to research NG for the next week, and you make this incredible NG segment, right? And it's really cool. It goes into its history. Will that get as many viewers as us saying, hey, Origen, they're failing, what the flip is going on, which is a much like smaller time investment in terms of how much research you have to do behind the scenes, right? At the end of the day, like the LEC is an entertainment product that relies on having viewers and having people watching things they're interested in, and not as many people tend to be interested about Vitality as they are about Origen. So
yeah, I mean that's definitely fair. I just I also think that as a brand, Origen has got a lot of criticism. And I wonder, like, for you guys, when brands, and thankfully this split, brands are stepping up more. You see Schalke, you see Mad Lions, you see SK Gaming, Misfits, they're all investing more in their players and their brands, and it's definitely a good thing to see. But as a broadcaster, do you ever get frustrated when you see like teams not doing as much?
Definitely. And I think like the thing that teams seem to think is the best are these like documentary style week on, week out. Like, here are our highlights of the games and here's what the player said after the game. It's like, maybe I'm not as invested in some of the teams as some of their like diehard fans would be, but I don't care about that as much, right? Like, I care about cool stories behind the players. I care about like, I think Vitality did it really well when they had Mini Trupax, Attila on, right? They gave me his story. They gave me this history about him and his brother. And then Misfits did some really cool series last year, I think it was, about like the histories of the players. And you don't have to give me content every week. You just have to give me content that I really connect with, that isn't just, hey, here's another docu-series of us going to the gym and then walking home from the gym, etc. But yeah, it is very frustrating. And I think like last year, SK is a good example of an organization that didn't really seem to push itself, didn't really seem to push its players' brands. And I could never really connect with them. G2 is a good example on the other side of like a team that has a very clear brand identity, knows exactly what they want to do, and they are fulfilling that. Cloud9 is a good example in NA, right? Like, I watch a lot more Cloud9 stuff than I do TSM stuff, because the TSM stuff tends to feel generic and the Cloud9 stuff tends to feel not just an esports publication, but it's something cool that the organization has made, right?
Yeah, they connect with the fans.
Yeah, I think actually, if I'm gonna, sorry, I know, like, I don't mean to.
No, go ahead.
FlyQuest is the best example of an organization that has totally turned around its branding. Like in 2019, they were nothing really, right? Like they were just another team in the LCS, right? But now you look at it, they have Tree Quest, they have Sequest. You know what this brand's about. The players are invested in it as well, and it doesn't have to be something huge and flashy, right? Like I spent 40 minutes watching some fish predict who was going to win the LCS, right? And it was fun because like it was just with the people. But yeah, I think. A lot of organizations seem to push too hard on being a very sports-like brand, and I don't think gaming is the space to be a very sports-like brand, right? I don't see Man United making memes. I see G2 really good at it, so.
Yeah. Well, it might be funny if Man
United
like start making memes.
I mean, that would be great. I'm sure you could get some good ones out of Ole. Just like, Ole gonna shot. Anyway.
Anyway.
Get away from football for now.
Right. So to round up the interview, a bit looking ahead at the second half of the split. Now, we have these storylines that have been created so far with two teams clearly the best performing ones.
Yeah.
19, well, that's mathematically not possible, but 17 in the middle, still in contention, and Schalke got a first win. We'll see how that goes. Like, is there a team, whose storyline you're specifically interested in following, or is it just like in general you just want to watch this?
So I think the most interesting ones to me, I think the most interesting ones to me are SK, Vitality, and XL, just because they are the teams that I would have put at they would be missing playoffs. If I looked at it right now and you said who's going to make it, I go Mad, Rogue, G2, Fnatic, Misfits, Origin, right? That's my standard. That's who I expect to make it through. So with XL actually starting to find form, I think they picked up 4 wins in their last 5 games, if I remember correctly. And one of those was against G2.
Yeah, they went 1-1, 2-0, and 1-1.
They lost to Misfits. They went. Anyway. It's just that's really interesting to me because they have always talked about this 2-year plan and how Youngbuck was going to take them to playoffs or worlds. They've never made playoffs. They've gone like 9th, 10th, 9th or something, or 7th maybe.
7th last week,
7th. And so that's a really interesting organization to me. I think Vitality and SK did some really cool things in the off season, and we've seen it kind of pay off. But Vitality have kind of started to fall off a little bit after picking up. They had a really good first week, and then they've only picked up 2 wins since then. But SK still look like they could be in contention for a playoff spot, especially with Origen failing and with Misfits sometimes looking a little bit shaky. So those are the ones I really want to follow. I think that's going to be really interesting. I'm also interested about Misfits just because they had one really good win against Mad Lions with the Fiddlesticks jungle, but they haven't shown me that consistently they're a good team. They showed me that this one pick worked really well against Mad, right? So.
Yeah, legendary casting moment, by the way.
Which one? Oh, the caca.
Here comes Fiddle. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Lovely. All right, man. Thank you so much for your time, and take your rest. I'm looking forward to seeing you and all the other casters in the second half of the split again.
Yeah, see you in a week's time.